Welcome to Coffee with Bernie, a roundtable discussion brought to you by the American Institute of Building Design and hosted by Bernie Kern, an AIBD fellow and residential designer in Central Colorado. Grab your coffee and get comfy and join us as we share real-world experiences and tips to turn challenges into opportunities for better results. Take it away, Bernie.
Welcome to AIBD's Coffee with Bernie. I'm Bernie Kern. Our topic today is going to be how to manage multiple projects at once. And before we get started with that, I wanted to share some little bit of fact information. Did you know the world record for the most plates spun on poles simultaneously is 108 plates achieved by David Spithaki in 1996 in Bangkok, Thailand. Unfortunately, we lost the world's greatest plate spinner in February of 2023. You see him there on your screen. David was an Irishman and a circus innovator. He beat the record of 91 plates set just 8 years earlier. In 2010, David and Steve Mickley became friends when Steve sought him out to ask a question. The question was, has his record stood for 14 years because humanly it's only possible to manage 108 spinning plates at once? Now David's record has stood for 29 years. David never really answered Steve, but from the question came an interesting discussion about how, as micro business owners, we are constantly spinning plates. So I'd like to start us off with a question here. What's something that you're trying to keep spinning? Whether it's a difficult situation, a challenge you're facing, or a project that needs your attention. Now, this question isn't necessarily about your business or anything like that. It can be about anything. Something that you're trying to keep spinning and it's just a difficult situation. You have multiple things going on. If you got something you'd like to share there, please go ahead and do that. Remember to unmute yourself too.
More just life with kids growing up and moving away when you don't want them to. That spins your plates 3 different directions. So they've got to start their own lives and keep going. And that's kind of a personal thing, but it's still always in the back of your head. That's the things, I guess, whatever in the back of your head all the time.
Yeah, I love that, Ted, because all of us, everyone I'm looking at here on screen, we talk about our businesses and everything, but we all have lives outside of our business, and there's always something else going on too in our lives.
Yeah, along the same lines, my daughter just moved from Ann Arbor to Virginia almost overnight. It was a whim that she and her husband came up with, and the next thing you know, they're gone. And it's the first time. I mean, she's 56 years old. I'm 76. It's the first time that we've ever actually lived apart. We didn't live together since she's been about 20. But the point of it is that even though Virginia is about 8 hours away, it's like, wow. I'm actually pretty excited for her, but it's just a weird feeling to eventually have a kid totally leave the nest.
Yeah. I know the feeling, Jeff. I raised 3 daughters. Anything else anyone wants to share?
We have a dozen projects going on. Sometimes it's just me. We've had as many as 40, but that's when I had 2 employees. And a lot of it, what I've learned is that if I list all the projects that I have yet to finish or make progress on, I get discouraged. So I limit it to 3 projects per day, make a list of the ones that are most important, and I block time early in the day for those projects. And then I turn the email off, check it at noon, turn the phone off, also check it at noon or just a little bit before so that I'm not distracted and you know how long it takes to get back into the system once a person's jumped. I think they say it's a 25-minute delay before you can get back in the groove. And so that's one thing that I've learned. I learned a long time ago, but it's really hard to implement that. It's
Uh-huh.
just well, you're looking for a phone call or you're looking for an email and you don't want to miss it. And so you just get distracted. But I do feel it helps in the morning to block off the time that's in, you say, from 8:30 until 11:30. I'm working on this project and I'm not going to look at anything else in the meantime. And most of the time that helps me actually get in the groove and move forward. So that's one of the ways I handle it.
Yeah, we're probably going to refer to you a lot during this hour, Michael, because those are the types of things I'd like for us to be able to talk about, managing projects and how do you do it, and how do you prevent the distractions that happen, almost by the hour all day long. So good. Yeah. So we're going to go ahead and get ready with the main part of our roundtable discussion, how to manage multiple projects at once. So before we get started, if you have a coffee cup you'd like to share, please put that on screen there. I have a very simple white cup. If you didn't hear earlier, I'm in Tucson, Arizona, staying at an Airbnb. And Keith loves New York.
I got to go to the doctor at 12, so I don't suppose I have anything 4 hours before. So I don't.
Okay. All right. Nice cups. Love it. Thanks, Julie. All right.
Bernie,
Yeah.
do you know what this cup is?
It's a white coffee cup.
That's a coffee cup, and they go back over 100 years. And so, you're not familiar with the exact shape and size and everything of the cup?
I'm not. In short, can you tell me about it?
Well, it's the same cup that they have used in diners for almost 100 years, and it's the perfect thickness and height and durability and everything else that you would want in a cup. I consider it special. It doesn't have anything written on it. I'd love to have one of our cups, but no one will give me one.
You may have one show up here before too long. That's Larry. That's a good point. For those that really like drinking coffee like I do, it's really important to have the right kind of a cup. I mean, every person is different and what feels right for them. Some people have these tiny little cups, with a little espresso in there. That's not for me because I'd have to have about 10 or 12 of them lined up for me. And Dennis is shaking his head. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, coffee cup is important. The right size, the right feel, everything. We know we all have our favorite cup at home.
This keeps my coffee hot 4 hours.
Good one. Okay, I'm getting ready to paste a question in here. There we go. So when we get started here, what are some of the biggest challenges you're currently facing when it comes to managing multiple projects? Dennis.
So right now I have multiple projects in different phases. Now being I'm small, I only have like 5 or 6 that's going at one time, but I have one and it's my biggest project and it's giving me the most grief because right now I'm in the 4th revision fourth resubmission for permits, which I generally don't get one resubmission. And usually in big cities, I might get one. This is in Arlington, Virginia, and I'm on the 4th one. And of course, my client is upset because he's like, if I'd have known this, we'd have done something a little different. I'm like, yeah, me too. But I think the hardest part about it is it sucks up a lot of time when you have to do resubmissions. I did a lot of research going into the project to make sure that we could do what we wanted. And there were a few things that I kind of pushed the limit on. um, trying to read into their codes, their zoning codes a little bit more, trying to pull some things out that maybe shouldn't have been. And that's okay. The homeowner understood. We were trying to get away to not get away with it, but see if it was okay to do it. When they came back and said, no, we changed. It wasn't a big deal. So that was the first resubmission. But after that, we've had issues with them just taking issue with everything from, hey, one of your sheets has the wrong address on it. I'm like, how in the world does one of my sheets have the wrong address on it? Well, the contractor didn't resubmit that particular sheet. So it was the old sheet because nothing got changed. So he didn't think anything of it. And so now its address doesn't matter. It's stupid little things like that. But there's been a few things where it's just taken hours of research to make sure that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Of course, the homeowner doesn't understand that. And I feel like, if you had told me this the first go around, I could have dealt with all this in one shot. But you've picked something new each time. So this last one, I ended up having to send an email that thank God for Chat GPT, because it really helped me turn my email from an angry, upset, uneducated person to a professional, kind, friendly email that had a strong point. But that actually got back to, I think we may actually be able to get our permit approval finally, but it took me having to go through all this. But the problem, I say all that because the problem is now that took, I'm going to say probably in all these things, it's taken probably 15 to 20 hours away from other projects.
Yes, I know.
A couple of them I could have had finished by now and gotten paid for them, and sometimes that can be a big deal. So yeah, that's one of the issues that I have, dealing with a county that doesn't want to give you all the information at once. They'd rather break it down in several.
Yeah, that must be really frustrating. So, Dennis, do you have more than one place to submit plans? Because here in Colorado Springs, we do. We have a city planning department that we have to submit plans to, and then we have the building department that we have to submit plans to. And unfortunately, the two do not communicate with each other. We have to tie that gap in with both of them, and it's so frustrating. It takes a lot of time to do.
So yes, in Arlington, it's got 4 divisions it goes through. And all 4 divisions send back notes, and it'll tell you if it's been approved or rejected. The first one, all 4 of them were rejected. The second one, 2 of them were rejected. The third one, 2 of them were rejected. And the fourth one, 2 of them were rejected. It's like, and it's been the same thing. At first, I misunderstood how they were writing it, because they would do this. They would leave the same comments on there. And I'd already addressed them, so I would go back and try to readdress them and spend time on them, not understanding, until finally I made a phone call and they were like, oh, those are just left on there. I'm like, oh, I don't like you right now. But this last time, I actually had to in my email, there's a thing that they use, is called a right to build. And it allows you to take a single family home and that's non-conforming with the new zoning laws, like maybe a wall was grandfathered in outside of the building line, but it allows you to build straight up on it, which we did. The thing that I missed was you're not allowed to have an eave overhang. So I had to take all that out, but they were telling me I couldn't do anything. I had to go in there and write, this is a right to build. And then finally they were like, oh, we're going to take this through a group meeting. Finally, I thought that was something that would have been just automatic, but apparently it wasn't.
Yeah. Ted, I saw your hand up, and Keith, I think you put your hand up, but we'll let Ted go first, and I'll come back to you, Keith.
Yeah, I don't submit anything. That's just the builders in my area. But the thing that really gets me is I do multiple projects. A lot of us do. and you have the client that wants to just stop for a little bit. And you get rolling on everything else, and all of a sudden they say, "Oh, let's finish mine now." It's like, well, wait a minute. I've got all these others ahead of you. No, I was ahead of them. And I'm used to that happening. But lately, it's been happening with 3 or 4 clients at a time. And like Dennis said, they don't understand the work that goes into it. They watch HGTV and everything's done in 7 minutes.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't work that way. And by the time you try to explain it to them, then they're just rolling their eyes, thinking, "Oh, you want more money." It's just the time management is my biggest problem. So I
Time
can't
management. Yeah.
put it off. And I find myself working 7 days a week.
Yeah.
And of course, we want more money.
Yeah. I think Steve Mickley described me perfectly. He said, "You're not a business owner, you're a worker. You're an employee of your own business," because I'm just here all the time. It's always in the back of my head. But the rest of us have the same thing going on too. It's the clients that jump in and want you to hurry up and do stuff. Well, if you finish mine off real quick, then you'll have time. I don't know if the rest of you get that or not.
Yeah. So Ted, I'm going to come back to you on that time management thing, because we have like 4 things I want to kind of get us talking about. But before I do that, Keith had his hand up, and I wanted to go to Keith.
Yeah, you can hear me, right?
Yes, I can hear you great.
Good. Working. Are you sure you're not doing work in the city of Fresno, Dennis? Because I deal with them all the time, and they're about the same way. But it's commercial I deal with out there.
I think all cities are about the same.
Yeah. Up here in the mountains, it's just the good old boy system, so it's not a big deal here. But whenever I have to do any resubmits or back check comments, I always submit a letter when I resubmit their comments, and then I attach a letter to it referring to this has been addressed. And that way, if anything comes back like those notes on there, I can contact them and go, "It's been addressed, see the attached letter." I don't know if you all have had to deal with that or not, but I always submit a letter back just so I'm covering myself that it has been addressed. So I don't know if you've had to deal with that or not.
Your submittals are all online, Keith?
Everything's online, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything's online, even out here in Chaffee County where we just got electricity. So yeah, everything is online out there. But that's what I do. I just follow it up with a letter just so it's all, everybody knows what's been done. But I don't know if that even works where you're at, but that's just a suggestion of what I do.
Okay.
You talk about like more of a narrative, like a bulleted point list of what's
bulleted point list.
That's pretty standard. I see that all the time.
An address issue. I actually just had that happen. I didn't have an address. It was a lot number because there was no address assigned yet. And the new person at the building department said, I have to have the address, and you got to give me the address so I can put it on the drawing, because all we have is a lot description, no address assigned yet. And the new person didn't realize that. Got me the address that was assigned. I went back and changed the drawings, but
no, that's pretty standard. I mean, it's helpful for them too, just to see what's all changed. They don't have to search through the entire set. They can just refer to that letter, the narrative.
The other thing I do is on my cover sheet, any sheet that had a revision, I'll put my Delta tag on that sheet, cloud it. But on the cover sheet, I have a section where, let's just say sheet A101, this is what was changed. So I have another referral back to, hey, on this sheet, we did this. So that way, when they're sitting there and they've got revised drawings, there's another backup of what was done.
Yeah. Okay. Well, our question. Yeah, I got your Jeff. I think Larry, did you have your hand up at one point? I thought I saw your hand go up. Yeah, and Jeff, I'll get to you in a minute.
Well, this is a question that I have for everyone. I use AutoCAD, Autodesk. Okay, so what? And this has a lot to do with time management. Okay, so I have a 30,000 square foot um, cabinet manufacturing facility. So that's that's good size, and it got busted in the beginning because they didn't get a permit. That wasn't good. The fire marshal turned it down. But I had a meeting with the owner yesterday. Going to submit next week, and then he said, "Hey, on these offices up here, we want to change that from 3 to 4." And I said, "Okay, that doesn't seem like a bunch. Just gonna squish it in and squeeze in another office." But whenever I have to go to every page and do that, if I were using my Revit, I wouldn't. In other softwares, if you do, it's parametric, you change it on one page and it changes on the other. So that's why I'm asking, what do you guys do?
Can you repeat your question there, Larry, please?
Well, if you new to your software, if you change something on one page, like an Autodesk, and you're using Revit, then it will change it on all the pages. Okay, if I'm just using straight AutoCAD, I have to go to each page and change it. Okay, so what software are you using in your time management? I mean, this is costing me 6 times as much as I thought it was going to because of the software I'm using.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with the other types of software other than Revit, and I know that Revit is very good at following through on other details if you make a change. But that's an expensive software to switch to that takes also a lot of time learning how to use. Larry, I don't know how to do it, but I know that AutoCAD does have some systems in there that will catch up so that you don't have to do what you're talking about, where you got to go back into all sheets and change them.
Well, I'm asking, okay, what's this soft form? I've heard Mick talk about that quite a bit. He said he started with that, and I've never used it, and I've never even heard of it really until AIBD. So, what is the big deal about it, and does it help you with your time, and does it make the changes I'm talking about?
Yeah, I couldn't answer that question unless someone here is using that software. Steve.
Yeah, it depends on what it is that you're putting on every page, Larry. But I don't know if they call it the same thing in every software. But back when I used to use AutoCAD, they had what was called a viewport. And you can create a file of all their details or anything that you want to use repetitively. And then you can link that image or drawing into any page you want using a viewport. SoftPlan calls them multi-drawings, but they also have the opportunity within a multi-drawing to create a viewport. I just forget what they call it. But
are you talking about copy and paste?
No, this is something where you create a drawing on your hard drive somewhere, and then you just reference it, or you create a note and you reference it. And then all you have to do is go to that details folder or notes folder, and you make the one edit, and it changes everywhere throughout your whole entire system that particular note is referenced. So it's a software thing that you're going to have to reach out to whoever it is that does the training for your individual software, but they all have a way of making that more pleasant in your drafting life.
Yeah, it's just X-Refing and
Revit is my answer, but I paid $5,000 to learn Revit. Okay, I'm talking about one-on-one training, and so then I went to Iraq. When I got back, they changed the operating system, and so what I paid for was throw it in the trash because it's over with. It doesn't work like that anymore. I call Autodesk and I go, hey, I need some help here, and they go, oh, well then just get online and learn it. Okay, so they have never been very friendly. I don't know how friendly the other softwares are, but Autodesk certainly is not one of them.
Well, let's get back on how to manage multiple projects at once. It could be that we could have an entire discussion, Bernie, just on this one topic.
Yeah, you're right. It has been frustrating, different types of software and everything. And Dustin, I'm going to get to you in just a minute. Jeff has had his hands up for a while there. Jeff, go ahead, please.
A couple things regarding Dennis's point earlier about dealing with building departments that are, we see this more and more and more, are more punitive in their review of a project. They're looking for ways to shoot you down. I think we could do a whole coffee with Bernie session on this, and I've got a lot of experience with it. And then to Michael's point about managing client expectations and so forth as far as scheduling goes. When I send out a proposal, I make it clear to the client that the start date for your project is not the date that you got my proposal. It's the date that you signed it and got the initial payment back to me. That I've got multiple proposals out at any one given time, and if other proposals come back here before yours does, they're ahead of you. And I try to make sure they understand I'm not doing that to put pressure on you to sign. That's not my way. But what I'm trying to make you understand is that you get into my pecking order based on when you get back to me. And so that's solved a few things. I did have an interesting situation last year where I had a whole bunch of projects going at one time, and this sweet little old 80-year-old widow came to me with a farmhouse that was in really bad shape, and her husband had died and left her a lot of money. And she wanted to do what turned out to be almost $800,000 worth of work to it. I wouldn't have done it to the house, but it was an emotional thing with her. And I basically said to the folks here in the office that, this woman's kind of living on borrowed time, and I'm going to go back to other clients that are ahead of her and ask them if it's okay if we put her first, because if we don't get her project done as quickly as we can, she's got a shortened amount of time that she can enjoy it. And I think the point of that is that just having good communication with clients to manage expectations. And then the last point that I want to make, I know I'm going on here, but with regard to the issue, back to Dennis's point of all of these revisions that you have to go through with the municipality to get through plan review, I don't know what all of your experiences are, but mine is that the client never seems to understand that it's not your fault, that somehow or another it's like you should have known. And I don't want to hear about your excuses. This is your business. You should have anticipated this. So it's a real conundrum. So.
Yeah, good, Jeff. I want to follow up on that, some of that time management that you were talking about. And I really like the way you said, priorities are based on a certain time when a project gets started. The earlier, the older ones have priority over the newer ones. And that's pretty general. And I think all of us kind of see things that way. And certainly most clients understand that as well. But in reality, a person's constantly being pressured by a builder or by another client, and another project is taking a little bit longer to respond on changes and revisions and things like that. Does not that some of those projects start overlapping each other? Newer ones somehow get done sooner than the older ones. Does that happen to any of you guys? How do you manage that? How do you control that? Because clients are like saying, hey, you've been working on this for 6 months. How come we're not done yet? And you've had other projects that are newer that have been completed. How do you control that kind of time management, the expectations that clients have? Does that happen to you, Jeff? I guess is what I should say.
Sorry to interrupt the program. Just a quick word from the host of our show. If you're a residential design professional looking for a community that supports your career and advocates for your rights, join the American Institute of Building Design, the leading organization for residential designers. AIBD is dedicated to protecting the ability of its members to practice their profession, ensuring that homeowners and builders receive high-quality design services. As an AIBD member, you gain access to exclusive benefits like webinars, industry tools, and continuing education opportunities. Plus, AIBD advocates for rights of residential design professionals, particularly those who are not licensed architects, to ensure that they can continue to provide excellent services without unnecessary barriers. Existing members, remember to log in at aibd.org/login to access all your benefits. If you're not a member, go to aibd.org/join today and become a part of a community that supports your profession and your personal growth. Now, back to our broadcast.
Well, we certainly have multiple projects going on at one time, and it sort of gets broken up into phases so that a lot of projects can be going on at once. For instance, at this point in my life and career, I detest having to go out and do field measurements when we're working on existing buildings. And so I've got a guy in the office here that I send him out to do it so I can demonstrate to the client. As soon as those as-built are done, they go out to the client so they can see that we're making progress while we're working on other things at one time. I guess I've never had, maybe this is lucky for me, but I've never had a situation where a client has put so much pressure on me that they want their project done in an unreasonable amount of time. And maybe that's just my luck.
Yeah. You come across with the right kind of personality as a business owner just to say, hey, these are the facts, this is what it is, and you'll have to get in line just like everybody else.
And sometimes, like I have older projects that, I had one, and Tilly emailed me and said, want to know the status, and I went and got it done. But in the city of Houston, I don't know, I put a question up there. I serve on the CIC of Houston Construction, represent our state organization. And so I know the building official, and I called him. And but anyway, I did a fuel, that's out of my scope of work normally, but they're moving a 10,000 square foot fuel tank, and I was doing a survey, and it was harder than the others, so I just kind of put it on the back burner and went with the 2 residential projects that was more that I could get done quicker.
Yeah.
But they emailed me the status, and I went on and got it done. I had it done the next day.
Cool. Okay. I want to get back to Dustin because he had his hand up there for a while there. Dustin, how are you this morning?
Hey, I'm good this morning. Good to talk to everyone. So one of my biggest challenges with managing multiple projects is scheduling. So scheduling a project at the beginning is pretty straightforward, but when the client takes time to review the preliminary or whatever, which is good because you want them to actually think about what they're getting and get back to you. That's when I start to have some issues. It hasn't been that bad yet, but I don't want it to happen where I put in my calendar, okay, this week I'm starting on a project and maybe it'll take me 2 weeks or whatever, a week to do this. And then they're reviewing it and then I have some time and then it's like, well, I have this other project starting soon and I said I'd get to it this day. Then another project, they're going to be ready for me, then it overlaps and I'm like, what do I do? What do I do? That's kind of my challenge.
Yeah, I have the same challenges too, Dustin. And I'm very good at putting things on the calendar and saying, this is what I project to do for months out. But I can tell you that every single day is an unexpected day, and every single day circumstances change, and I have to readjust my calendar constantly. Larry, you had your hand up.
Yes. whenever I submit in Austin, it goes to all the departments. Okay, so it's not like you're submitting to, the development department, except blah blah. It goes to all of them, and then they all come back with their comments. And so it doesn't help me that much in time management, which is what we're on, but it sure helps with the keeping peace with your client whenever I talk to each department that has a comment. They call them comments, to make it a Teams call. That way the client's involved and I'm involved and the municipality is involved. And that way they know what has been asked of me to do. And it gets them in the loop. Is that making any sense or not?
Yeah.
Okay. So that helps me, and here you get one free shot. So you go through all the comments, then you have to cloud them and answer them and put a letter with it, blah blah, and send it and resubmit. On the resubmittal, if you pass all the comments, well then it's a freebie. If you don't, then you have to start all over and pay all your fees all over. So that's the way it works here.
Yeah, good. Yeah, I was glancing at some of the chat in here, and I noticed Audrey's there about the 3x5 cards, which is pretty interesting. There, I do something very similar to that too, and it's just kind of keeping projects moving forward by doing mini tasks and keeping your clients updated on what's going on, have them something to work at, something to look at, and keep all the projects moving forward that way. And your clients feel like you're engaged with their projects. So very good. Yeah. Julie, you had your hand up there.
Going back to I think the original question, I might be behind, but obviously we all have biases with clients. You have some that you love, that you're willing to jump on that project right away because they're nice and they pay you quickly and they make decisions quickly. So you're willing to put them ahead of other clients. And that's a bias that we all have. I'm sure we all fight.
Yeah.
While we're out there. In our contract, I actually have a turnaround time of 7 to 10 working days. I have a team that works for me. I have 3 designers that work for me as well. So we put in the contract 7 to 10 working days to turn around changes, which is about 2 weeks. But there's no guarantee. I mean, it also says there's no guarantee and we'll communicate with you if we can't make that deadline. Mm-hmm. So the client knows that it's not going to be the next day. If it's a tiny little change, like flip a door swing or change the ceiling treatment, we use chief architects, so those things are easy. We can turn that around and send it right back to them. My team knows, if it's something simple, just send it right back to them so we can move on. We do a 3 payment system throughout the design process. So the quicker we can move through the phases, the faster I get paid as well. So the other thing is to go back to how do we organize, we use Monday.com. Does anybody else use Monday to track their projects?
I have not.
Okay. It is a project management, highly customizable project management system. And because I have 4 designers, including myself, we can have anywhere from 30 to 60 projects at a time. We have to, this is how we manage it. And I manage it. We type all our notes in there. We have all the phases that we list so that not only can I follow along, but that designer can keep track of their own projects because I assign projects to each designer. They kind of manage their own client with me at the head, of course. So if you guys have any interest in learning more about Monday, I'd be happy to share how we put it together if you have a team.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, I might be reaching out to you, Julie. That's cool.
Okay. Yeah, we can do a webinar or a Zoom or something. I can show you what we do.
Okay, cool. So delegating, I mean, it sounds like you have a team there, so you're able to delegate the work out, so you're not doing all of it yourself. And
I do a lot. I do some. I do less than I used. I used to be a lone ranger.
Yeah.
And then about 4 or 5 years ago, I started. I hire people.
Yeah.
So because the economy, I'm sure everybody's seen the slump with residential design. We're staying busy enough, but we could be busier. So, but I'm prepared. Like everybody's trained, so we just need interest rates to drop.
Okay. Can I ask you? This might be a little bit more of a personal question, but before you hired a team and you said you were on your own, did you find yourself being stressed out by the work, which caused you to go out and get help? And how do you feel today with having a team versus the way you were when you were doing things on your own? Do you feel less stressful today?
Yeah, my husband kind of forced it. He's like, if you don't hire somebody, I'm leaving. I mean, because I would work till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. There would be tears. Clients would be upset. So I actually went out to hire one person. And when I interviewed, I found two, I'm going to call them kids, right? Kind of right out of school. Mm-hmm. I hired two, and I told my husband, I like them both. He's like, hire them both, we'll get the business. And thank God I did, because it was when the craziness was happening in the market a couple of years ago in 2021, post-COVID or middle of COVID, when everybody was at home, interest rates were good. And we did that. So I've turned over a couple of people since then, but I do it by projects. My designers manage anywhere, ideally between 12 and 15 at a time. 10 to 12 is kind of ideal. They're not super stressed. Once I started hiring, I could actually manage the business rather than just drawing plans. So that was where my decision came in, and I can go home at 6 o'clock and, like not cry. So that was that it was really my husband, but thank God he pushed me, because it's made a crazy difference. And I think for me, it's just the number of projects. Yeah. If I can see that the number of projects is consistently coming in, I'll make a decision to hire an intern to work on like construction documents while my designers are actually designing. So, yeah. Did I answer your question?
Yes, I'm so glad you share that with me. And for those of you that are on video or on this meeting, if you find yourself being really stressed out and having too much work, looking for ways to delegate that work out can really help. That might be the most valuable information you'll hear today. So thank you, Julie, for that.
No problem. Thank you for allowing me to share.
Sure. Steve, go ahead.
I was typing a comment for everybody to go out to. Anyway, what I would like to share is my screen, because there's two things that have been said going up to now that I've made notes on. And the first one was about, I think, Jeff, you're the one that said that our clients are expecting us to know what the plan reviewers are looking for. And in a sense, I agree with the clients. For years, I've been hearing designers complain about how difficult plan review is becoming. I remember when Hurricane Andrew hit Miami, it did not change the way houses were built in Florida, but it changed the complexity of the set of the construction drawings. And I rejoice, because that made me an expert in the field of residential design, over and above the many people who were not operating as professional designers. So AIBD has created, under construction document forms, you go to aibd.org/document or designer docs. I think it's designer-docs, or you can log into your AIBD account, and in the right-hand margin, there'll be a link to designer docs. And we have what's called the construction drawing checklist. That checklist was created by purchasing the plan review checklist that ICC provides to their plan reviewers as their guideline. And it's an exhaustive list. I've learned that not every plan reviewer follows the whole entire checklist. What we've done is try to, through a group of subject matter experts, which actually I believe was the National Council of Building Designer Certification Council, that narrowed that list down to a checklist that's an item of things that we should be providing on a set of construction drawings. And then whenever there's a new code edition that comes out, there's usually a new checklist that's promoted or published by ICC, and we try to keep it as up to date as we can. There's a section in there for code reference. The committee kind of ran out of steam when it came to that point, so we've got some of them referenced, but not all of them. Hopefully, maybe someday we can get a task force to complete that project. The other thing I want to point out is in the folder under Business of Design and the subfolder Planning, we have what's called the project. Oh, I clicked on the wrong one. I hate when I do that. It's the project tracking. And my Chrome hates when I'm doing this and sharing my screen on Click Meeting at the same time. But here we go, planning. The project tracker. It's a spreadsheet that you can begin with. The image is really small here, but let me, I can't seem, oh, there we go. So the way the spreadsheet is set up, you can list all your projects with a start date, and then when you want to set it as a completion date. Now, of course, those dates are editable. Just because you set it in as a completion date doesn't mean that the client doesn't make changes and you need to extend that date. But then it automatically tells you how many more days you have to go to get that complete. But then there's also columns that are built in to show your total contracted amount, how much you got for a deposit, and then each of the different milestone payments along the way, so that you can kind of track how much money you have due to you at any one time if you were to totally complete your projects. I find that to be very motivating.
Yeah.
So anyway, I just wanted to share those resources with you because we kind of, had those two subjects that came up in the discussion.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. That project tracker, that has got my curiosity. I'm working on something very similar to that right now. So, Larry, if you're still on and you're hearing that, we need to take a look at that. Yeah. Thanks, Larry. Michael, I want to come back to you because you were talking earlier about time management and everything, and I just wanted to hear how you work through some of that. You've heard some of the discussion here about setting client expectations and things starting to get out of hand because they're getting pressure from all these other people. So some people are getting thrown in front of others. How do you manage that? Do you keep a very strict, hey, you got to wait your turn? Are you able to do that? And how do you do that?
Like one of the comments in the chat, the squeaky wheel oftentimes gets the grease. So we, of course, take that into consideration. Somebody that's calling every week, anticipating that their plans should be at the next step or whatever, they definitely move up the lists from someone you're not hearing from. But a lot of it is, in my mind, how long it takes for a client to get back with you. And when I send them an updated, let's just say we're still in the concept phase because that's where the changes take place, I let them know that they're not to send individual comments as they're looking through the plans in a text saying, oh, I noticed this needs changing. And then 5 minutes later, they send another text. It's like, look this over, get back to me within a week with a list of the pages and the items that need changing. We can make those changes and then we can schedule our Zoom meeting. We can make final tweaks on that. And if it takes them a month to get back, and then as soon as they get it back to us, they're like, hey, when's that going to happen? I said, you waited 4 weeks. I've got other projects that have kind of moved ahead. So that's a part of it, and let them know that we gave you a week, you've taken a month, therefore other projects have moved in front of you. It's not a very fun conversation to have. Had a builder recently reach out to me, and we're in the process of building a contract that is fair for us as well as for them. And so he was 13 days before he got back to me after our initial conversation. And then when I said, well, I need to have my lawyer take a look at the contract, he's like, no, just make the changes and we'll move forward. And so I wrote back, I said, you had 13 days. My lawyer's out of town for vacation. He'll be back in 10 days and then we can look at it then. And he was quite upset, but I reached out to him yesterday because my lawyer's back in town. And I said, hey, where are we at with this? And so he said, my lawyer's reached out to your lawyer. So it's kind of the same sort of thing where, he was in a big push to move forward. And I said, you've taken 13 days. Now it's my turn to take a little time to look at it. And I do that with the clients as well.
Yeah.
So it'll take a while because I have in the schedule, we're 3 to 4 months on a typical project. If things are moving, and most projects are closer to 5 to 6 months. And I've had some projects that are 1.5 years because you didn't hear from the client for forever. And they also know that if they are more than 30 days responding, there's a 5% restart fee. And that motivates a lot of people.
Yeah.
Of course, if you don't have a lot going on, then it's harder to justify that. Well, I'm going to move to someone else. Well, okay.
So. That's interesting, Michael. In my experience, most often clients respond pretty quickly, and they know that the sooner they get the information to me, the sooner we can move forward. And sometimes I get it within 24 hours. It's rare for me for someone to take a week to get back with me with their comments, a week or even longer than that. Sometimes I'm like, when I get their response back in 24 hours because I was counting on having a week to work on other things while they're busy doing their thing, and they just respond way too fast for me.
Yeah, and that's partly why we have 5 to 20 projects, is because we do have delay time with people getting back to us. Like I have one client recently, and I had to reach out 3 times before they had time to respond, and we had a Zoom meeting, and it took 15 minutes to resolve what needed to be done. But I had to reach out 3 times over the course of the month, and I wasn't really pushing it because I've got other projects that I was working on. But I needed his answer, so I just let him know that you're the delay and got other things going on. So and he's good with that. But sometimes they do turn around pretty quick, but most of the time I want them to take a little time to look the plans over carefully before they respond. I'll let them know that.
Good. Jeff, you got your hand up.
Yeah, to Michael's point, I do spend a fair amount of time initially with the client explaining to them that the flow of your project is to a great extent dependent upon how focused you stay on this process. And so the design agreements that we do are always done on an hourly basis, and I estimate the number of hours that I think it's going to take, and I tell them that if everything goes smoothly, we'll be able to stay within these hours. But if you are the type of client who I present something to you and you take a month to get back to me, and then when we sit down, you say something like, now explain this whole layout to me again, it's going to take me more time, and therefore you're going to have to be responsible for that side of things. And then another point that you raised, Michael, having to do with contracts. In the very early days of my company, I guess I had the fortunate experience then to have a client who really raked me over the coals with contracts, and we just kept going back and forth, and his lawyer was just teeing off on almost every paragraph in the contract, and I was using AI standard forms of agreement at the time and still do to this day. And my lawyer told me that these contracts have been around since the 1800s, and they do go through revisions, but they are basically the standard of the industry, and you should tell your clients that I'm going to present this form to you, and it's worked for 100 years, and if your lawyer feels the need to change things, I'll accept 4 changes. And we'll talk about those 4. And once we get them resolved, we'll sign the contract and go forward. That's worked for me for 40 years. And basically that stops all of that back and forth, where it's the lawyers that are making the money off of the negotiation for the contract because they're being paid hourly too. So I hope that helps.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, good point. Thank you. All right. Yeah, Larry, go ahead.
Were we just talking about AI documents? Was that what you were making reference to?
Yeah, Larry, that's
okay.
I use exclusively AIA forms for both subs and clients.
Well, I personally believe that that is the one great contribution that AI has made to the industry. They have a almost fail-safe set of forms, and no attorney should even contemplate taking them on, because hey, these babies have been run through the most expensive attorneys in America for 100 years. They have a set of documents that'll knock your head off. So, but the problem with us or with me, you have to pay for them. If you use AI doc, then you can't just make a copy of it. It costs you $35 or $25 or whatever the case is. So you got to pay for them. Anybody else use them?
I don't.
No. Well, if you're in a tough spot, they got the answer right there.
Okay. Thank you, Larry. Thank you, Jeff, for that. All right, we're getting to the top of our hour here. Yeah, Michael, go ahead.
I've got one more comment regarding the contract. We have a good contract that's put together that I feel is fair and balanced. This particular contract negotiation is because the builder that we've just started working with has an initial master contract that is completely and totally unbalanced. And he was not wanting to move forward until we signed the contract. And I looked at the contract and it said, well, you can cut it off, but I can't. You can, you retain 10% till the end of the project. What if it's a 2-year project? So I said, I can't sign your contract. If you want to move forward, you can sign our contract. And he said, no, just make 2 changes on our contract and we'll be good. And I said, that's not going to work. So we typically don't have any issues with people signing our contracts. It's just when people want us to sign their contract that we say, okay, where are we with that? But I agree with you that, we have not made, the only thing that changes is the addendum, which is the scope and the price, for our typical contract. But that particular contractor, I think it's going to be a good relationship, but we just need to establish what his first subcontractor with me as a subcontractor contract is going to look like. So yeah, I do agree altogether. We don't change our contract. And when people have said, like, maybe one of our most difficult clients are people who are lawyers who do read the full contract. Most people don't. But people who read the full contract and say, we want to make some changes, it's like, no, this is a good contract. If you're not happy with it, we can find somebody else. And most of the time we've done that.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you very much, Jeff. That was good.
Thank you, Michael. Ted, go ahead.
Yeah, this is kind of, I know we're getting off this thing. I had a builder, I did not know this. He had in his contract that the designer, me, was responsible for the means and methods of construction. And I never agreed to that. And I found out one day when someone decided to sue him, he said, no, you have to sue Ted. What do you mean? He did not follow the plans, changed them, diverted. And I was like, the lawyers got together and said, when did he agree to this? You also have to find out what's in some of these builder contractors that you work for. Are they assuming something or making you take responsibility that you don't know about, that you never signed to? So yeah, the contracts are funny. They're different in every area. Just wanted to say that.
Yeah. Good. Thank you, Ted. Okay, I'm going to kind of wrap us up here with a quick statement, and Ted, just kind of stay on because I want to come back and get some AIBD updates from you if we can. So first of all, what I want to just kind of summarize this meeting and kind of give you one word: expectations. If you can just be honest with your clients, be honest with yourself, and set good expectations as far as time management, you'll be less stressful, I'm sure. Be careful of not getting into the trap of clients, asking about when they want things done, and then you reply with what you think they want to hear, because you'll probably just get yourself in trouble and stressed out by doing that. So just be honest, set good expectations to your clients, and communicate very, very well with them. Sometimes those expectations have to get pushed out, and just let them know as soon as you know that it's going to be pushed out. Let them know. Don't wait until it's already been pushed out and then you tell them later. So good communication. Does anybody else want to share anything before we end our coffee chat?
As always, Asheville and ARDA are coming up. Get your stuff ready.
Yep, that's what I wanted you to report on, Ted. So thank you. Everything looking good for Asheville?
It looks good for Asheville. The hotel that we contracted with did get a little bit of storm damage from that storm a while ago, but they're telling us everything's up and running. It looks like a nice little place. It does have a public golf course near it. I don't know if it's attached. If you're a golfer, it's separate from the hotel. We're trying to set up some stuff with Biltmore, but there's a lot to see at Biltmore. My wife and I are going to go either a few days early or a few days late and see more of it. I don't know how many. I think it's like 1,000 acres or something to see.
Yeah.
But, it'll be a nice trip. It'll be AIBD's 75th anniversary. We'd love to see a nice turnout. It's always nice to get together and talk with people. Florida is open. I don't think there's any changes in the categories for ARDA. Don't quote me on that. But yeah, let's get it rolling.
Cool. Thank you, Ted.
There was one change to ARDA. It was a change that was made by the judges on the fly last year. We had a number of entries that did not meet the multifamily category because they were separate dwellings, but they were on the same piece of property. So this year we've added a new category to be able to handle like ADUs and 2 single-family homes or 3 single-family homes on the same lot that are not, attached in duplexes or townhouses. So I know that sounds confusing. Go to AIB or go to residentialdesignawards.com, and there's a really nice description of that multiple dwellings category that's been added.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Jeff, you had your hand up, I think. Was there something you wanted to get out there before we end?
No, I'll do it in a DM. Thanks.
Okay. All right. Okay, everybody, we're finished with our coffee chat for this month. I hope to see you next month. I noticed that on our attendance that we maxed out. So when you see the messages to register for the event, be sure and do it early so you're able to get in on the next coffee chat. Everybody have a good weekend.
Bernie, I want to